Most people learning to TIG weld don't realize there's a simple $5 welding test that instantly shows how good your welding is. You can find it in any hardware store, and I'll show you how to use it so you can level up fast. Let's look at what's happening inside of your welds. This is a butt joint configuration that I am setting up here, and I'm going to show you the welding test trick here on it. This is 1/8 or 3.2 millimeter aluminum plate, really common stuff, nothing fancy at all. Obviously, when you're getting ready to weld it, you want to make sure it has been decontaminated and wire brushed properly, and you want to make sure that the joint has been secured and the alignment is good. We don't want any gaps at all. These are the steps that are going to help you to get ready to get good results with welding this one. You can see the settings on my screen that I am using here. I'm using the Everlast Typhoon 230, an awesome machine. I love this thing, but these settings are nothing really serious at all. They're pretty straightforward. You can screenshot this here or pause it and write these settings down. Let's get right to it. I'm going to flash up and getting going with the welding here. This is basically just a standard butt joint. You just do your thing with it. What you want to focus on is keeping in nice and close with your arc. Keep your torch relatively close. Do not let it drift away. You want to make sure that your puddle does not fall flat or concave. You want to make sure that your puddle does not get too wide. You want to make sure that you are using enough filler material so that the welding area is getting good reinforcement with each step that you take. After I finish this one here, you can see what we are looking for is exactly what I describe in my textbook. Check out this page right here. You can see the puddle control is what we are looking for. We want the filler rod feeding properly and into the correct area of the puddle. We want the standoff distance consistent from start to finish, exactly like we saw in the welding pass here. Check it out. The idea with this welding test is to make sure that all of the details are done from the textbook really well. And if we do this correctly, we should be able to see that we are getting adequate penetration through to the other side of the joint. This really depends on how much heat you are allowing to build up into your workpiece, but you can see this is kind of what we want here. The amount of penetration gets through the joint really well. However, the amount of filler material that I've used on the top side of the joint has helped to control the heat. And this is how we can get good reinforcement as well as control the penetration through to the other side of the joint. Now, here is the trick that we are going to use to get a really good look as far as what is going on inside of your welding joint. This is just oven cleaner. I'm sure you've all seen it a million times. I'm sure there's other things out there you can use for this test, but this is what I've used for years. You can buy it in any hardware store. You've seen it in the grocery store probably. And essentially, here's what you want to do right here. What you want to do is cut your welding into strips so we can expose a cross section like this from your welding pass. What we want to do is then polish the welding area. This is going to help to get rid of any marks from any bandsaw or whatever you used to cut it. And check this out. Here is the trick. As you are polishing this down, you can see I'm using a 3M Scotch-Brite pad on my angle grinder. And while it is smoothing everything out, it's actually helping to heat up the piece a little bit more with the friction. This is absolutely key. The next thing that you want to do while it's warm is use your oven cleaner and spray it on. Make sure, of course, you use adequate ventilation and eye protection and gloves. What you want to make sure that you do is you do it while it's warm after grinding. If you spray it on a piece that is cold, it's not really going to do much to help you out. Here's what we want. You're going to allow this stuff to soak into the base material and filler material, and it's going to eat away at the edges a little bit on the surface for about 5 minutes. Again, in the store, this stuff costs like $5. Okay, maybe $6. I don't know, whatever, it's cheap. After this is sat for like 5 minutes or so, you can go ahead and rinse it off with water. It should remove most of the stuff on the surface. If you want, you can use a rag or something soft. After washing it off and letting it dry, you can see that it actually exposes the differences. You can see this visually between the base material and the filler material. Now, of course, looking at a cross section like this one here, it's obviously pretty straightforward because before we cut it, we could see just by looking at this angle here, I did achieve adequate penetration through the joint. But let me show you how we can use this test on a little more challenging stuff that'll help you out way more. This here is 1/4 inch material or 6.4 millimeters. It's a little bit thicker. And if you're gonna weld this in a butt joint configuration, to punch through with perfect penetration on the other side is kind of impossible, unless you are a complete crazy person with a machine that's capable of running enough heat to melt a whole car. What you wanna do is with your plate material, practice this with one piece of material first. We're just gonna run a stringer bead on it. Use your ruler and a tungsten scribe, and this is gonna give you a line that you can follow just how you would if you were doing this with with a butt joint configuration like we did earlier. What you are then going to do is run your welding pass right down the length of this material here. Some details that we saw in the textbook, like getting in close with the torch. We want to have good puddle size and good puddle control, and we want to keep up good filler material, but not too much. If you add too much filler material, this can actually block penetration into the base material. You want to just keep in close with your welding standoff distance, arc length, whatever you want to call it, and really pay attention that your puddle isn't getting too big in width. This is very important. When you are done, we're going to flip it over and oh my gosh, surprise, surprise. We don't see a perfect ribbon of penetration on the other side. Now, most people on the internet would immediately tell you that you suck and you fail, but we're going to tell those dorks that they can right off. And this is where our $5 or $6 welding test is actually going to show you how you really did. Use your bandsaw or whatever you use to cut stuff and cut out a cross section again. Repeat the process with the grinder and then spray this puppy down when it's nice and warm and toasty, and then let it sit for a few minutes, and after wash it off. Now, here's where we can really get some useful information. You're going to be able to see the cross section, and very clearly it's going to show you how you actually did as far as punching into the base material for penetration. Pretty sweet, huh? This is going to teach you a lot more about your arc control as well as the settings and the setup that you are welding with. You want to be able to take a look at one of these cross sections here again, and you want to be able to see that you have been able to knock the heat into this base material a little bit to achieve penetration, even though we didn't see any on the other side, right? Now here's where you can use this test to really get good with your consistency with TIG welding when you're learning. As a matter of fact, even when you're intermediate or have done this for years. Obviously, running an open butt joint configuration on 1/8 inch material is going to show you very clearly how consistent you are from start to finish with your penetration or heat control, but we can do the exact same thing with this 1/4 inch base material, just running stringer beads on it. And this is where we can really focus on good consistency with our penetration, even though you can't see any on the other side. The idea obviously is that we want good reinforcement controlled well on the top side, however, not too much that we start to block penetration down into the joint itself. Like I said, we don't want to use too much heat so that the puddle gets too wide overall. This can cause the top side to start to sink or become hollow, or it's going to force you to use more filler material to balance things out, and that's just annoying to do. Look here in my textbook again, check it out. We can see in an example like this joint here, too much filler can actually block the edges and they will not blend in well. Don't use too much of it. Again, like we talked about, if we don't use enough, things are going to get wider and begin to sink and become hollow or concave. There's going to be a really nice sweet spot in between these examples here. Now, going back to what we talked about with 1/8 inch or 3.2 millimeter base material, a cool thing that you can do with these is you can actually cut these strips up and then grind the welding and penetration off so these coupons are now smooth. I demonstrated this on an episode I did on my YouTube channel just a couple weeks ago. That video absolutely bombed, so make sure to pop back, give that one some love, please. But I show in that episode how you can grind them down, polish them down to remove all the welding as well as the penetration and marks from your cutting, and then you can set up a round radius. This one was about 1/2 inch in diameter or whatever, and you can actually do a bending test to see how they hold up. This is a great way to test out how you're doing with your fusion. You can do this very easily with the butt joint configuration with 1/8 inch material, where you can see if you have adequate penetration on the opposite side or not. And there are even welding tests with thicker joints like I show here using a butt joint configuration. Again, this is actually welding over the butt joint configuration with 1/4 inch material. Again, looking at the backside, surprise, surprise, we don't see any penetration. Oh my gosh, let's not freak out. But like we talked about, you can cut these into strips, do your etching test on the side and see how you did. Compare your starts to your middles to your ends. But what they will do in a test like this typically is you can weld one side, try and get good penetration down into your base material, and then they actually notch out and gouge the backside of the weld. And then you throw a pass on the backside and fill things up. Controlling all the details of your welding as well as the overall heat input and learning how to properly balance things out with your filler material is obviously very important. And these are a lot of the fundamentals that I teach you in my new hardcover TIG welding textbook right here. This is the textbook to end all other textbooks. The pages in this thing are an absolute blast to read. I used to love comic books, so obviously you can see I designed it to be something like that. I have stories about my welding journey inside, as well as this book being a complete experience experience that takes you through an actual curriculum. Like I said, it's not just a textbook for school, it's the classroom as well. All you do is you scan the QR code that comes with the book, and it opens up all of the lessons that you can follow along with. This is where I teach you all of the things as if we are actually hanging out in the shop or classroom together. My wife and I package and ship these from my house shop here. There is no drop shipping, no Amazon deal or anything like that. This is an independent thing that we've published ourselves, and I am very proud of that. To everybody who's picked up a book so far, you guys sold out the first batch. It vanished. We've just restocked. We got a new batch here. Make sure to grab a book before they sell out again. As always, do a random act of kindness for a stranger today. I fucking mean it. My name is Dusty James. Phil and Chill. We'll talk soon. Peace.